All right, everybody. Good morning. Happy September. Hope everybody is having a great morning. Today we are going to be going over, as usual, our QuickBooks Enterprise versus QuickBooks Online Advanced information. Today we're focusing on sales transactions, comparing sales transactions in the two products. Very exciting. Give everybody a couple seconds to get logged in here. This PowerPoint is also available in the handout section in your GoToWebinar here. So please make sure to grab that if you would like to. All right. And I apologize, we had some crazy weather over the weekend, and so I do have a little bit of hoarseness in my voice. But we'll go ahead and get the ball rolling here. Okay, so as a reminder, who we are, so I'm Marjorie Adams, I'm the CEO of Fourlane. Here at Fourlane, we work primarily with QuickBooks Enterprise customers. We have been since day one, doing conversion work from outside products into enterprise, products like NetSuite, Sage 100, Sage 300, Mass 90, Great Plains, all the things. And we've been doing this for a long time. We have a lot of clients doing those conversions. We also help customers who have been using QuickBooks for a while actually use the entire product. So making sure that they're taking advantage of all the things that they are paying for, because what we always like to say over here is people just don't know what they don't know about QuickBooks, right? And so we help make sure that you know all the things. So this is just some of our services that we offer, and in case you hadn't heard them recently. So today we're going to be talking about sales transactions. So this slide is just going over briefly, oops, there's an open parenthesis there, briefly what are the different sales transactions inside of QuickBooks Online and QuickBooks Desktop. And these are sales transactions that you would expect to see in a lot of products in the accounting space. So we have estimates. Estimates are non-posting transactions. So non-posting means that it does not affect the financials. Right? So if I put an estimate in, my balance sheet does not change, right? My P&L does not change. Doesn't mean that it doesn't show up on other reports, but those two reports are not going to be modified. So that's what non-posting means. So what do we use an estimate for? To provide a quote to a customer. Here's what it's going to cost you. In QuickBooks Desktop, we also say we use it for budgets for the job to track at the task level or item level, service level. Then we have sales orders. So this is also non-posting. The estimate has progressed. It drives demand for product. Right? So this is something we're going to be looking at today. Invoices. So this is our first posting transaction. This will affect your financials, and it hits accounts receivable. I don't know why I have an open parenthesis there. Sales receipts, these are also posting transactions. They bypass accounts receivable though, right? So it's still a sales transaction, but it bypasses accounts receivable to hit cash or another current asset account. We're going to talk about delayed charges today. So delayed charges are non-posting. This is QuickBooks Online only, and allows you to track charges that you are going to put on an invoice in the future. Right, this is not billable expenses that we're going to put onto the invoice in the future, so an expense that's driving revenue. It is just revenue that we want to remember to invoice for in the future. Then we have statement charges. So this is QuickBooks Desktop. These are posted transactions. We add a charge in that you would see on a statement if you create a statement for the customer. But there's no transaction, so you can't like open one and send it to the customer. So it's kind of a strange one. And then of course, credit memos, also posting transactions. This is how we give refunds to customers. Generally runs through accounts receivable, and then you cut a check if you need to actually issue cash back to the customer. So we'll be looking at all of these today. So this is kind of our agenda here. So we're going to talk about types of sales transactions, right? What is available in each product. We're going to talk about workflows. So how do we progress through these, or when would we be using these? any kind of customization that we can do along the way, and then clean up abilities if we have time. This is just a lot to cover. So we also will have a video in the future around cleanup. So let's dive in product. Of course, that is where I like to be. And we're going to hop on over into QuickBooks Online Advanced. So of course, my main focus with these demos or these webinars is that we are going to be talking around QuickBooks Online Advanced. We're trying to let people build their comfort level because our audience is asking us when they can move to QuickBooks Online versus being in QuickBooks Desktop. What we've found is that the biggest barrier is navigation. So we want people to start to see navigation. And then also the second one is functionality. So we want them to see functionality as well, what is possible. So we're talking about sales transactions. There are a couple different ways, right, that we can get to sales transactions. So over here, I can come in and see sales. I could go to new and come over and see all of the different transactions that I can add in. But I'm going to go ahead through the sales section. When I come in here, I can click on, notice that estimates. Estimates is turned on, but it's not one of the tabs here, right? So some people can get lost to that. But if I go to all sales, I can create a new transaction, and there is my estimate screen. So estimates are really the starter transaction for most customers, right? We're going to go in and create an estimate because we have to tell the client what they're going to be paying us for our services or goods in the future, right? So when I come in and create an estimate, just to take a look at the screen here, there are some things that QuickBooks Online Advanced does that QuickBooks Enterprise does not do. So first of all, we can choose a customer. You can also choose a job on here, which we're used to being able to do in desktop. But QuickBooks Online has this concept of projects. I'm going to choose a project on this one just so that we can see the effect when we go actually look at the project itself. Right away, you can see a couple things. So we do have this thing called a status. Oh my gosh, people ask for estimate statuses all the time. So we do have a status in QuickBooks Online Advanced. If you're going to have a status in QuickBooks Desktop, sorry, let me get into my estimate screen here. If you're going to add a status to QuickBooks Desktop, you would have to put in a custom field, which we do with customers frequently. You can put in a custom field. It can have a drop down, all that fun stuff. The only other statuses that we have in Desktop are inactive. And then when we go on to look in the Income Center here in the second income tracker, we'll see the status of open as well. So we can have a status, which is great, understanding. So we have pending. You can't edit this list, but pending, accepted, closed, rejected. We can come on through here. So we have billing address, pretty standard, estimate date, expiration date. So estimate expiration date. This is something that clients ask for frequently. When we're doing this in QuickBooks Desktop, again, you do have date fields. So when I come in here to customize data layout, I can see I have a date field, which would be the estimate date. I have another date field, which would be the due date, which I can change to say expiration date. Oops, if I can spell. And then I could add custom fields that were date fields as well, right? So I can add those, but not standard. Right, we had the ship via field, which is pretty standard here. Shipping date, so again, an additional date field here on the estimate. And you do have tracking number, which is on here. I don't know 100% why we would put that on an estimate, right? Because that would be, at that point, we need to have invoice, because if it's out our door, we need to make sure that it's showing up. But anyway, tracking fields there. We do have locations, so that's a little bit different than classes, which we're used to in other versions of QuickBooks and QuickBooks Desktop. So you can add a location, which location is the shipping out of. And then we have all of the information down below. So I'm going to go ahead and choose some hours, put in 80 hours at $1,000 an hour. And then I'm also going to choose some materials, put in 52 materials at a rate of $20 an hour for $1,040. Okay, so I have my estimate set up in QuickBooks Online Advanced. Down below here, there's a couple things that you can do that you cannot do in Desktop. So we do have the discount line, right? So I can add a discount percentage or value, which will discount the entire thing. If you're doing discounts in Desktop, you add it as an additional line, right? So you have an item that is a discount item. We also have the shipping charge if we want that down below. Same thing in desktop. If we're adding shipping charges, it would be a line on the invoice, not showing up down below here. All right, so I created an estimate. Pretty cool. Now what? So from when we're progressing from estimate, in QuickBooks Online, we're going from estimate to invoice, right? So we're going to go in and create an invoice from this transaction. So before we do that, one of the things I want to look at is in here we have all sales transactions, which is like the income tracker in desktop. And I can click in to see all estimates if I want to. So here's that estimate that we just created. Okay. Let me go into QuickBooks Desktop and create a quick estimate as well. So I'm going to create an estimate for Big City Store. And we can see all of the different things, fields that we have. There's many more fields you can add in desktop, of course. We can add custom fields as well. But if I just choose installation labor, I put in here 1,880 hours at $400 an hour with a negative markup. No, thank you. So let me go ahead and just make this a positive markup. And then we also have installation repair, let's just say at 100 or 10 hours, 35 at 50% markup. So there is our estimate that we've created, okay? So when I go in and I look at the income tracker in desktop, I will also be able to click on the estimates and see this estimate that we just created down below, okay? So if I'm in online, I have the estimate. I do have noted the project. Notice that we have noted the project here as a separate line. In desktop, it is kind of embedded. Whoops, sorry about that. Go back to amount here. It's kind of embedded. Well, there we go. Embedded in the customer name. So customer colon job. And you'd be seeing the same thing if I had a job here, right? But I had chosen a project. Notice the status on the side here is pending. So one of the things that you can do from this screen is I can come in and update the status from this screen. Pretty cool. Accepted, closed, rejected. Of course, I could edit it and update it as well. As far as batch transactions with the estimates from this screen, I can batch print, batch send these transactions, right? And then, of course, you can create an invoice from here as well. In desktop, the things that you can do when it comes to batch, so I can come in and batch email, batch mark inactive. So this is one of the statuses that we talked about, not this status, which can be confusing. Inactive just means it's not going to show up anywhere anymore. This status is whether or not it has been invoiced. Okay. And then actions we can do on the side, convert to invoice, sales order. Again, mark as an inactive, print it or email. All right. And this will be similar. I'm just showing this for the estimates. It would be similar for sales orders, maybe different batch actions, but similar for invoices as we move along the line. So let's go ahead and create an invoice from this estimate. When I create an invoice inside of QuickBooks Online Advanced, we have a very similar screen to what we're used to seeing in desktop. So I can create remaining total of all lines. So if I had previously invoiced against this estimate, it would just pick up the balance. I can do a percentage of each line, right? Or I can do a custom amount. And if I choose custom amount, take a look at that. When I come in here, what it shows me is it shows me what was $0 of 80,000 due. So what is the original estimated amount, which is 80,000 and 1,440 on this line. So it shows me the dollars. Then when I click over here, I can click on this little, I don't know what that is, chain link thing, and it'll tell me the estimated amount. So for right now, I'm going to go in there, and again, I can say amount or percent. I'm going to go ahead and say we're going to invoice for 25% of that estimate, and we're going to do an amount of $500 for this line. So I've created the invoice, and I can say save. Okay, so that is saved. Close out of here. Now when I come back to this estimate and I choose to create an invoice again, I have the same thing, remaining total of all lines, do a percentage of each line, or create a custom amount for each line. So I'm going to choose that option. Takes me directly to the invoice. Now here, note, it still says 0 of 80,000 because it's saying how much you have done on this transaction. But when I click into my little links over here, it will show me I have an estimated amount of 80,000, invoiced amount of 20,000, therefore 60,000 remaining. Now, if I try to bill above that amount, 80,000, and I go ahead and say save, it will give me a warning. At least one of the items is over the estimated amount, so I can make sure that I am, not overbilling the client. The suggestion, if we are going over the estimated amount, would be to go back and edit the estimate and add the variance amount as a separate line, or create a secondary estimate for the change order or scope change or whatever we call it internally. Okay. So I can choose to cancel or just go over, which would be continue. I want us to keep doing that. I want to charge them extra. In QuickBooks Desktop, it is the same thing. So when I come in to, where's my $90,000 transaction? Oh, I'm on sales order stuff. Where did my $90,000 transaction go? So when I come in here and I create convert to invoice, it pops up a little bit different look of a screen, but what we're used to, create invoice for 100% of the estimate or whatever's remaining, right? Bring us to 100%, same word, different terminology, or same end goal, different terminology. Create invoice for a percentage of the entire estimate, or we can create invoice for selected items. So I'm going to choose this one. Now it takes us to this screen before we get to the invoice. You do not have to use this screen in desktop. It's not very user-friendly. You have to drag around fields to kind of see all the stuff, and you can't make it any bigger. So I usually bypass the screen and just keep going on to the invoice anyway, because all of these fields are available on the invoice as well. Right, so in desktop, we do have the ability to customize data layout, choose our progressive columns that we want to see, and add more, right? Estimated quantity, prior invoice quantity, estimated amount, prior invoice amount, prior percentage complete, whatever. We could add more quantities, more information to the screen here. So similar to what we would see in that chain link, except for this is based on quantity and amount, not just amount like what we saw in QuickBooks Online. Okay. So in here, I'm going to go ahead and put in 25%. And I'm going to put in also, I can put in the, do I not have quantity as a column on here? Great. If I had quantity as a column on here, let me go ahead and customize data layout and add the column for quantity, because that's kind of strange. I wouldn't have that. So now I have quantity, so 25% of 180 is 45. I can also put in a quantity here, so 5, which will back into my 50%. So you can see a little bit more information in desktop here. So I save that invoice, okay, save and close. Now when I go back to my estimates here, that invoice is still here. It's just showing the open balance is lower. When I go in and create an invoice again, and I say I want to create an invoice for overage amount, right? So I'm going to take it and bill for the full 90,000, even though I have already. It'll tell me right away, as opposed to when I hit save, hey, the amount you're entering is over the estimated amount. Are you sure you want to do that? Pretty cool stuff there. Let me go ahead and exit out of here. I'm going to create the invoice one more time for 100%. So when you bill invoice out for 100%, save and close. It does not change the status of the estimate, does not make the estimate inactive, as we mentioned before on the estimate screen, right? You can mark something as inactive, but what it does do is it changes the status here of open to closed, because we have invoiced out the entire estimate, so we don't need to focus on it anymore here. Doesn't mean it doesn't show up on reports and all that stuff. So those are estimates. Okay, estimate to invoices. That's how we're going to be doing workflow inside of QuickBooks Online Advanced. In desktop, we have an extra step in our workflow that we can do. So we can take a quote estimate, again, just a budget for the job, and we can convert it to what's called a sales order. So the entire thing moves across onto the sales order. Sales order is also a non-posting transaction. The only difference is that a sales order will drive demand for product. So when we look at quantity available inside of QuickBooks Enterprise, you will see quantity on hand, quantity on a sales order, how many are reserved for assemblies, quantity available. So it subtracts out what is on an open sales order, right, an outstanding sales order, to tell you how many quantity you actually have available. So if I tried to go in and sell 1,000 of these, I would be, or if I tried to go in and sell 672 of these, I would not be able to sell them. Even though I have 804 on hand, I would not have enough to fulfill all my orders that I've got in the system. So it's just an extra step to help with that inventory management. We do have clients that use sales orders for other things. So just because you can, right? So if I have an estimate, I can still convert. Even if I do services, I convert it to be in a sales order, because once I convert it to be in a sales order, that tells me that the things that I subcontract need purchase orders. So I only create purchase orders from sales orders, not from estimates. Or perhaps it's, I need certain products, things that we don't keep in inventory, and I only create purchase orders for the non-inventory parts when they're sales orders, not when they're estimates. So it's just an extra step. I know it's an extra transaction, but it allows for workflows to make sure that we're, differentiating between when we quote a customer and when a customer says, yes, I'm going to move forward with this. We already talked about invoices a little bit. So invoices, you do not have to do any of these non-posting transactions, right? Don't have to do sales order, don't have to do estimates. I can come straight into QuickBooks Online and create an invoice. That is allowed. Okay. Invoice transactions are going to hit. I'm not going to go into it too much, right? Because I think most of us understand invoices. We do have a concept of multiple invoices inside of QuickBooks Online Advanced, and we have a similar thing in desktop called batch enter transactions. Okay. In both of these cases, so here it's invoices. In both of these cases, they're singular lines, right? So if I put in that I'm going to create an invoice for Aaron, and on the next line, I say I want to create an invoice for Aaron because I actually want to create one invoice with 2 lines on it. And I come on over here and add the product service of hours, and then the product service of services, and then the amount of 100, or the amount of 200, 220, and say save, right? It will give me an error. So it'll add 1, it will not add the second line because it has the same invoice number. So from these screens, you're adding a transaction with 1 line on the invoice. Okay. Something that we have in here too is we do have modify. So you can modify transactions in this edit screen. And so you can come in here and make modifications. Let's say we had the wrong amount, we had the wrong classes. This is something that we do not have available in QuickBooks Enterprise, QuickBooks Desktop, this modify. Right. Now notice that they have multiple lines on this one, right? You're still just seeing 1 line. So things you can modify are mostly header type things. So terms, classes, etc. So very cool. And let's move on to the next one. So we do have sales receipts. So these are available in both versions, QuickBooks Online and QuickBooks Desktop. So when you're doing a sales receipt, generally when this is happening is if we are taking cash payment at the time of sale. So web store orders frequently come in as sales receipts. We'll see that a lot of times. If we have any kind of counter sales and we're not using a point of sale software, we're using our QuickBooks as our point of sale software, then you'll see these sales receipts used. But they look very similar to a invoice transaction. They are a posting transaction. The only biggest difference is that you can take a payment right from the screen. And then we have the deposit to as well, so I can choose which accounts that we want it deposited to. Sometimes it'll go straight to cash, sometimes it'll run through undeposited funds. So if I take a credit card payment as an example, it'll go to undeposited funds so that when the credit card batches for the day, the entire deposit will go into my bank account and relieve undeposited funds. In QuickBooks Desktop, this is very similar. We have the create sales receipts, same thing, just gonna have a little bit more customization, but you can see I am saying in here, cash, check, debit, credit, and then it's a preference to decide where you want these to go. If you want them automatically to go, I have it set to automatically have them go to undeposited funds right now. I would be able to take that preference off if I wanted to make a choice of where it's going. Oh my gosh, we're almost at time. So we have two more that I just want to talk about. So we have delayed charges. Delayed charge in here. Again, this is a non-posting transaction. This is available in QuickBooks Online Advanced only. And so when we come in here and I choose a delayed charge, I can put in hours, what's the amount that I'm going to be charging, and say save and close. What's going to happen is that's going to just sit on the account until I am ready to create an invoice. And when I'm ready to create an invoice for the customer, then I can add those delayed charges to the invoice. We do not have that concept in QuickBooks Desktop. In QuickBooks Desktop, we do have something different. I have had, in all of my years of doing QuickBooks, I've probably had 4 customers use these. But we have what's called statement charges. So I can come in, I have to choose the customer I'm billing to. I put in what the item is, right? So I'm billing them for labor, what the amount is, all the things. I can put in the date, site, class, all that stuff. And when I hit record, it posts this statement charge. So it's a statement charge transaction type. I cannot open this. There is no transaction. There is no transaction screen. There is no template. But if I do go in and look at my AR aging report, I can see that this statement charge is hitting receivables. So it is a posted transaction. The offset to the transaction is wherever that item was going towards, but it's not an actual transaction. So the reason that people usually put them in is so that we can create statements for customers, and that statement charge will show up on the statement. Okay, the last one that we have is credit memo. So this is considered a sales type transaction. A credit memo is going to be very similar to an invoice. So when you have a credit memo, you come in, you choose your customer, product, service that you're refunding. The difference here is that, you know, in an invoice, we debit accounts receivable and credit sales, let's say, if we're just hitting a service. In a credit memo, it's the flip. So we are crediting accounts receivable and debiting sales, which will lower the sales amount, lower the AR amount. Once we create the credit memo, then we go in and we will apply it to the invoice that we need to apply it to, or issue the customer a cash refund if that's what, or, you know, just leave it on account for future use too. That's also an option. Okay, so those are the sales transactions available in both QuickBooks Online Advanced and QuickBooks Enterprise Desktop. I do have a quick poll to ask you guys which versions or which sales type transactions you are using currently. If you will fill that in. And then if you have any questions for me, please make sure to put questions in chat. I will keep the session up for a little bit. It looks like I do have a question here. It says, we ship inventory and the challenge in desktop is to identify when the sales order needs to be shipped on the sales tracker without having to click into each sales order. Do you have any suggestions? So there is a sales order fulfillment worksheet in desktop. This is kind of a little bit going into deep, but we do have a sales order fulfillment worksheet, which does have the ship date, expected ship date on there. So I wouldn't be driving fulfillment of sales orders from the income tracker, I would be driving it from the sales order fulfillment worksheet. So Carrie, hopefully that helped you out there. All right, let's see if we have any other questions. And I apologize, I have somebody just joined me in my office today. I am a mom of a 2-year-old. All right, that's all we got for you today, guys. I hope everybody learned something important that will help them out in their week and help them out in their decisions. Please let us know if there is anything that we can do here at Fourlane to help you with your decision on whether or not we're ready to move into QuickBooks Online Advanced. Coming up next week, we're going to be talking about non-inventory items. So I look forward to seeing you then. Thanks, everybody.